Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to GitGud NA Season 7. I'm Corbeck, joined here by Dividing with DeLuca, Myth, Shunned, all handling things on the back end as we bring you this exciting matchup here. First of the day, Musclebound Gaming versus Hanzo behind. And now, Dividing, you and I think, both recognize some of these names coming out of Musclebound, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As some League Zero casters ourselves, we've both actually casted these guys on Musclebound quite a few times. A lot of them in the grand finals of the novice division of that league, which they won. Fan of League Zero, you might recognize names like Titanic, Spongy Cheese, Minimax. You might recognize those names also if you're a fan of Tranquility, where those players also won. This is a team of powerhouses at this SR level who have just been going around smashing every single gold to plat division league they can find. And it seems like ELO Hell is the next one on their list.
An unstoppable army of destruction indeed, but they're about to run into maybe an immovable object here in the form of Hanzo behind one of our other 4-0 teams right now in Get Good, and they have not been slouches at all in their previous matches.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the crazy thing about this match in particular is that if I read the standings right before I came into this, Musclebound and Hanzo Behind aren't just two undefeated teams. They are the only two undefeated teams in Rookie Division going into this weekend's games, which means, of course, one of those teams has to go.
Yeah, well, they can't all be winners, and in order for it to be a competitive game, somebody does has to lose. So it will be one of these teams. It'll be curious, I think, to see which one will go the way of the dodo, at least temporarily. But our first map tonight gonna be Busan, the wonderful Korean city there, and a little bit of Koth action for us as well. And I'm curious, Dividing, how you feel we might see these teams stacking up here in terms of comps.
Yeah, well, I can talk a little bit about Musclebound because I know these players. I know what they like to play. I know Spongy Cheese, a very prolific long-range hit scan player, loves those snipers, and you can definitely see that kind of play coming out, especially on like downtown, where you see a lot of different high ground that those long-range snipers can take advantage of. Be looking for Titanic to be coming out on Farah, probably one of his favorite heroes as well. And also, these teams, of course, very, very prolific at the brawl that we've seen kind of dominating the meta over these last couple of months. And I can imagine we're probably going to be seeing a lot of that, especially from Hanzo behind. Looking at their team sheet, they appear to be sort of a brawl team. Look, when I look at what heroes they say they play the most, it looks pretty textbook brawl. So, but I think that's good. If Hanzo behind have really grinded this brawl comp and they're really good at it, they might just be able to take what Musclebound throws at them.
Indeed, Brawl is, it's become more and more popular as time has gone by, and slowly but surely, I think some other comps have kind of slid into the rear view mirror. Maybe Double Bubble, still something you have to give a little bit of consideration to. But again, to reminder to everyone at home, at this particular ELO, I don't think we feel quite as beholden, right, to meta predictions. And sometimes, like you said with Titanic, there, it is just the hero you're best at, especially in the case of the DPS. If there's somebody you can just pop on, right? That's who you want to play. So maybe we will get to see a little bit of Farah action here, and certainly some of these maps here on Busan do lend themselves to a little bit of Farah gameplay. Perhaps not as effective as some of the other cost pools, but doubtless still effective in that. And I don't know. We'll see. Brawl is kind of interesting to me because it does have a tendency to either really work well or really work poorly. There is no middle ground there, Dividing, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that when it comes to games like this, and especially at this ELO, I am pretty. I'll say this every time I cast games with this ELO. Meta is great, but I think it's better for teams to focus on what they're good at and try and really hone those skills instead of trying to learn something new. I think if you can play something weird and it works well for you and other teams aren't expecting it, that can do you wonders.
Very true indeed, and often those surprise picks are some of the most effective. But here, taking a look at these initial lineups, dividing, I don't think there's anything too horrifically surprising here. You'll see Bluey 284 there coming out on the Hanzo, so not one of the sort of traditional brawl picks, but a pick nonetheless. And it would be a bit of a shame if Hanzo behind didn't have him in their lineup, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is mecha base. You can't be expecting anything too terrible here, too outside of the norm. You're looking at brawl comps, and other than some slight variations, that's about it. I'm not sure if stream is also frozen, or if that's just me. I'll be honest.
I think it might be a collective issue right there, because I'm currently looking at the number of 5 just stuck on the screen. It's either an episode of Sesame Street or something's not working, but it looks like we've got it back here and already on the initial engagement. BMOX coming in hard and fast up to the top of the elevator, just trying to put a little bit of pressure on, and that forces immortality fields out from both sides, and those immortality fields will go as quickly as they land, but Spongy Cheese, who strikes early, BMOX cannot sustain on that front line, and now Titanic begins to escort the team forward here on the Mage, just looking for the right wall. It will go up. They've got the Hanzo trap, but they don't get him. Instead, they get his opposite number. Unfortunately, he's not long for this world either. Bluey 284 goes down right there. Spongy Cheese, forced off the high ground, will fall back to the point here, and the team could just theoretically regroup and continue to fight this one out. And it will be a bit of an extended post-engagement here, dividing, but it looks like it's mostly over.
Yeah, it's pretty much over. Minimax going down late here spells maybe a bit of an opportunity for Hanzo behind to push back in this, but the high noon from Spongy Cheese will put a lid on that really quickly. I think when it comes to these Brawl v Brawl matchups, fights are often won by the team that is able to control the tempo, that's able to aggress on the other team, and I think Musclebound did that beautifully as that fight came on, aggress on the other team, but Bluey getting a nice shot on Gag may open this back up.
Well, they've invested the window here as well from the Baptiste with the damage amplification matrix. That's not helping much of anyone. Now the Rhine beginning to push forward here. Minimax looking for the opportunity to get something. Does have the Shatter in pocket. It does appear that it will be Yangpa who goes down first. The Dragon comes out, and then the Lobby lags. That's something I haven't seen in a good long while. Minimax is killing people still, despite of it. Another little drop in the lobby right there. This is unfortunate, but I'm not sure. We're seeing it in Slipstream time, which is always a little bit entertaining there, as Roxcrafts is just cleaning up.
Insert the Matrix theme.
Yeah, indeed. Matrix, Back to the Future, I don't know, whatever you have. A little bit of time traveling for you. Is that other movie that involved time travel? Looper? Is that what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of Looper. What's
Definitely having a few observer issues right now, but I do want to shout out Titanic for pointing this guy out for his far before this game, but his May has been absolutely on point right now. The wall's doing such a good job. I think on 2 separate occasions I've seen them separating out Yangpa, and after that it's been an easy pick-off of that Zarya, which is a huge source of damage. They just can't get done what they want to get done. And the early Blizzard is actually going to keep them all locked up into that little stairway. And first round goes over the way of Musclebound Gaming.
Yeah, you're very correct right there, and I was going to say it if you didn't mention it, but Titanic has been playing that May kind of to perfection in the context of this comp. We've been waiting for that, right? Like that, you wait for those walls, and then the brawl charges in after, and that's what you see. The real effectiveness of it is. But now we're going over to downtown Busan, and a little bit of changing of the lines here. We're seeing Titanic coming out on the Echo, so a little bit of aerial power being brought to this one, dividing alongside Spongy Cheese, who's, well, never mind, they're all flipping.
Lots of swaps coming in. Yeah. There's going to be an Ashe from Titanic, so I think Musclebound Gaming opting for sort of a slower-paced comp that relies on Minimax and Rockcrafts going in and getting just banks a little bit of space. But there's the dive that does find Monarch. Actually, no, sorry, it's Blue Wind that's on the Widowmaker up top. He's the one who found Monarch, and without that Ana, Musclebound Gaming is going to have a lot of trouble.
Bluewin taking off another head there at the end, and I'll tell you what, Dividing, this is kind of a meeting of double bubble and dive here. It'll be interesting to see which one of them comes out on top. Dive at composition, right, really relies on execution.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, if you're Musclebound Gaming, you know that the Widow is there. You know she has gotten set up on the high ground. How do you respond? Because, I mean, other than the dive, and I mean, this Widow we're seeing, it's playing very safe right now. There isn't a ton of ways you can get up and contest this Widow right now. You can maybe jump up there with the Monkey. You can maybe try and get Titanic up there, but it's going to be tough with the comp they're running right now.
The push coming in low ground here, and they will sort of escort it back out. Dave just with complete control of the high ground, more than happy to throw her anti-nades into the backline. Spongy Cheese still fighting this one out, though. Doesn't want to completely give it up. That'll force the Primal out of B-Mox. He'll jump around for just a little bit. Now Spongy Cheese has to make some hard decisions here. Will decide, but will not make it work. Bluewin was there to shut it down, but Titanic returns the favor. And the last members here of Musclebound making a real fight of this one. Titanic will go down, but the cavalry is here. The res comes in. Unfortunately, reinforcements are trickling back in as well, but they have managed to flip the point. Gag got the big res there on the Thigh making good work of that. Minimax goes in for the Primal. He slept, but will come back up, and that will mean the end of Dave, who no doubt is screaming at our team right now, and that will be the bitter end of that fight by the looks of it.
Hanzo behind has really got to just back up here, let the respawns come through, but that is not what's going to happen. They're going to jump right back in, and oh, wow, the sweep from Dave, the parting shot, I guess, as he gets picked off by Spongy Cheese.
A beautiful kill followed by a beautiful sleep right there. The fight continuing to boil. You do see in the background of all this, Spongy Cheese did get brought down by Bluey 284. But the fight just continuing to go. B-Mox going to pop the Primal here. He gets slept. And unlike on the opposite side with Minimax, nobody's going to wake him up until they're good and ready for it. They get a couple of sticky bombs on him. They can't quite bring him down. And meanwhile, Roxcraft loses his mech, and that could be a bit problematic here, but instead of kind of worrying about that, they're investing the nano boost and they're just going forward. Minimax charging in there, his team surging in behind, and they'll just clear out those streets.
You know, when I saw this comp coming out from Musclebound Gaming, I thought it was going to be a fairly slow comp. I was wrong. They are playing this comp so fast, jumping in, not allowing Hanzo behind to really get themselves ready as much as they want. But here comes the Nano Blade. Maybe Bluey can turn this around.
Bluey's got to do major work with this. He starts off with a kill on Rockcrafts. He's looking for another one as well. He can't quite find it, but in the meanwhile, Bluewind has gotten two and opened things up just a little bit here for his team. They'll push forward onto the point. Bluewind will touch. It does look like they will turn this around. The Valkyrie, I don't think enough to keep them going. Gag going for a bold res there, Dividing, but not quite bold enough.
You do what you can in that situation, and luckily that Nano Blade comes out just in time to relieve the pressure on the rest of the team and allow Hanzo behind to push on in here. Now, we're kind of entering into last fight territory, especially if Musclebound Gaming is going to take a minute to set up. So I'll be interested to see. Maybe we can see a big pulse bomb from Spongy Cheese, get a pick or two off in the back line. That could really open things up, but it's got to do it quick because tank ultimates are coming online for Hanzo behind.
Bluewind does also have that hind into the pocket should they choose to use it. The team's coalescing. But look at that, there it is! It's like you called it! Spongy Cheese in the back line with the big pulse bomb gets two. The grab comes in, but it's too little too late. The point flips at 96%. And Musclebound will just walk that one in for a first map win.
Incredible play from Musclebound. I think that we really saw their strength shine on Mecha Base when they were really able to take advantage of the micro plays and team plays that come into that Brawl 1v1. They very much outclassed Hanzo behind in that case. However, things were a lot closer here on Downtown. When things got a little more individual, we got to see Bluey on the Widowmaker do a lot of work. I think that this game could be a lot closer than I think a lot of people thought.
Well, it's entirely possible, dividing. I think one of the problems we saw with Hanzo behind and what we didn't see with Musclebound was that Hanzo behind maybe lost their game plan a little bit sometimes during those engagements. Those big, long engagements where teams never really want to give up the fight, right? These are problematic to a certain extent for a lot of teams because it's really easy to lose the plot. If your shot caller dies multiple times or your team can't really disengage and get a regroup, you're constantly fighting at a disadvantage, even if the other team is at a disadvantage as well. And it just adds to an overall kind of air of chaos that some teams struggle to thrive in, especially depending on just how strong your DPS are. But I agree with you. It could be quite close at the end of the day, dividing. And our next map, King's Row, will probably answer that question just a little bit more for us. Because if anybody's just going to get a leg up over the other, it'll probably be on this map.
Yeah, most likely, I would have to say. Hanzo behind as the losers, I believe, got to pick this map, which is interesting, means they feel very confident in it, even though it is most likely going to be a Brawl v Brawl matchup, where we saw on Mecha Base, like I said, Musclebound seemed to be very ahead in that matchup. And I think that a lot of that came down to tempo control. Musclebound did a fantastic job of aggressing before Hanzo behind was really ready for them. As you mentioned, the shot color going down is a really big boon to the other team. But also, if you could just get in on them before they're fully ready, because while they're trying to ult track and trying to fight plan, you're just jumping in, and they're not fully ready for it yet. So I think Hanzo behind, bit of an ambitious pick. It's called Scrims Row for a reason. Everyone loves this map, but I think they have to prove over this map that they can control the tempo, because I just didn't see it on Mecha Base.
No, I agree. And a huge source of that lack of tempo control is the lack of that dedicated Mei, right? We talked about it a little bit during that map on Busan, but having a Mei really is the difference maker for those brawl comps. It's why Mei Cree, right, was such a big deal, because you get those walls up, you slow opponents' players down, you force the tanks to play more cautiously because of that freeze, all of which really contributes to that overall tempo control. So it'll be interesting to see here whether or not Hanzo behind leans into that a little bit, or whether they're going to try and continue to force a Hanzo into their composition.
Yeah, and the thing is with the Hanzo in this kind of comp, and it looks like Bluey, as long as there's no swaps, will be playing it again. The thing about playing the Hanzo is in this comp, as well as the Zarya while we're at it, is that you are sacrificing the utility of a Mei and potentially a D.Va as well for just pure damage. You're going for the highest output of damage at once, and that means that you've got to play this a little bit slower. You've got to give your DPS a little bit of time to whittle down at Minimax's shields if you're Hanzo behind. Make sure that Rockcrafts doesn't have any more D-Matrix. Make sure Monarch has gotten their immortality feel out, and then you can go in and use that superior damage to your advantage. However, in the early fights, Musclebound Gaming tends to have the advantage with their utility.
Minimax doing a little bit of scouting there with the shield, I think. And they will get this initial push through the gate. BMOX just trying to get him past the statue. Now you kind of have to make your choice of directions. Neither of them very palatable for most teams, but they will rotate around the right side here. BMOX once again in the front line, pushing their opponents back into the alleyway near the hotel, and they'll see what they can do with that Titanic. Going down early on, and there is that damage we were talking about. Bluey striking fast there. Monarch's immortality field got thrown out there and ducked as well. And now you'll see that window coming up, some shots coming in, and Blue Wind goes down to the fire strike that's amplified by the Matrix. Now they'll put on the pressure on the backside. Minimax surging forward here. You saw Kemi there as well. Both of them trying to get some sort of kill out of this. And again, one of these long telling engagements. Neither team really trying to give up too much room. The quick re-engage perhaps coming out here on the side of Hanzo behind. And they will surge forward. The shatter comes in. It's a good one indeed. Can they follow up? The wall is there. The immortality field is down. The counter freeze from Titanic might not have been enough, though, because the High Noon is invested. BMOX gets 2, and it does look like the fight is finally over.
And this is what I'm talking about. The Hanzo behind did a much better job that fight of playing a little bit slower, a little bit more cautiously. They kind of just slowly walked to the point, let their DPS whittle down on Minimax's shields, And then once they were forced to fall back, it opened up sight lines for Bluey. And as we see it again, Bluey gets a nice headshot on Mikemi, and that is going to allow them to just push up further and further, almost to second point, as the cart continues to roll.
Yangpa's right here at the doorway, does have the grab in pocket, probably wants to use it as soon as possible. Bluey has the second part of the notorious Dragon Ball Hanzo right there, so we'll see if they can make that stick. The backup starting here, Yangpa falling back just a little bit. There goes the grab, couple of targets in it. Where's the dragon? There it is, but the immortality field was down. It's not enough. Kemi tries the high noon in the midst of all that death, and he will pay for it with his life. Titanic now booped forward down onto the street, will go the way of the dodo. And that should be a clear victory here in the streets phase, and probably a completion of the point.
Yeah, and that's why I think if you're really going to take a grab dragon, you really just can't commit ultimates. You just have to sort of accept your fate most of the time. Because, I mean, Musclebound Gaming committed the beat, they committed the immortality field, and it still wasn't enough. Everyone was still at 1 health by the time it was gone, and then it was just easy pickings for the tanks and DPS of Hanzo behind to finish off everyone on Musclebound Gaming. It's just so difficult to deal with that damage that comes in that ult combo.
Another real criminal ult there might well have been the high noon actually in the midst of all of that, but they'll try and push forward again here. Yangpa, though, trapped in by some interior decorating they didn't expect. Kemi, though, will pick up Blue Wind, and somehow Yangpa escapes. The bomb coming up now over the top. They have a blizzard here as well if they choose to use it. The bomb long searching finds no one, and it looks like it's basically back to the spawn doors here, at least temporarily, for Hanzo behind.
Yeah, now they're going to be pushing back in with the amplification matrix, and Musclebound Gaming is going to be smart and give it the respect it deserves. However, no, actually, well, trades going back and forth as ults traded from both sides, so this fight definitely not over yet.
No, it's not. B-Box is trying to shut it down. He swings the corner, drops the hammer, and now the pressure is really on, and in the wake of the main tank, well, it's Yangpa, and he's more than happy to feast off of what the Reinhardt has laid before him right there. They will back up to the cart. 3 minutes, 55 seconds on the time bank here.
They were able to get a pick as Titanic used the blizzard Hanzo behind was, and then they were able to kite out of the way of the blizzard. This is a very different team than what I saw on Busan. This is a team that knows how to play around their win conditions and is doing it perfectly right now. And I mean, what do you do here if you're mini-max? Nothing.
Nothing. I mean, you threw the immortality field. That was the best effort you had. The stall game now going to be strong. They do have the Mei in there. Titanic trying to hold it down, but will not live too long. And it will be a 3-minute, 24-second completion here on King's Row, which really is nothing to scoff at there.
That is a very good attack. 3 minutes, 24 seconds. I would be so happy if I was Hanzo behind right now, especially with how Busan went. I mean, that looked like a different team. On Busan, Hanzo behind really let themselves get aggressed on by Musclebound Gaming. This time, they were the aggressors. Not only were they the aggressors, but they also knew when to sort of fall back and not go full aggro. They knew which moments were the best to really push forward. I mean, it paid off. It paid off in a huge way.
Yeah, I feel like they did a much better job of controlling that tempo we were talking about, right? That was kind of the big key there. And a lot better job, too, of maybe coalescing / focusing their damage at points as well. You kind of saw them focus down one specific target, put a lot of damage into it, whereas on Busan, I think they were just a little bit more split-minded. But certainly 3 minutes and 24 seconds is a strong showing and enough to maybe demonstrate that this is not going to be an easy walk over here for Musclebound, no matter how good they think they are. On the other side now, a couple of swaps coming in. I'm trying to figure out what Titanic's plan is. He might actually be coming out on a Doomfist, which would be pretty entertaining.
I mean, Titanic likes his Doomfist. I mentioned the Far. Doomfist is also one of his signature heroes, and he can dominate on it. However, into the flashbang of the McCree, into the spam damage of the Junkrat, it is going to be difficult to get that value that you want. The spam damage coming out from Hanzo behind is just so good, and Kemi already down.
Yeah, the spam damage already telling right there. They speed boosted straight in, and Kemi got
Louis
brought
is
straight
80%
down.
to a rip tire already. It's been 30
my
seconds.
Lord. That's pretty horrifying. Actually, that Junkrat, man, I tell you what, let's see if he can bend these grenades, too. You know he's thinking about it. Now the push will come in. He's still waiting. He's got the tire. He'll play out of the lobby of the hotel. They're going to chase him down. He's public enemy number one briefly right there. And the flash over the top. B-Mox more than happy to clean up there. And Titanic goes down as well. And Short Stack will escort his team forward up to the gates of victory.
The immortality field just a second too late to save Minimax. That's really unfortunate. Beautiful stun there also by Blue Wind, able to bring forth the damage to take down the Reinhardt. Rockcrafts is now going to make a swap over to Azaria. I think they are trying to eat some of those Junkrat grenades. It's been such a huge deal for them so far.
Yeah, we'll
sorry. The Zarya will get a lot of charge off the Junkrat grenades. I got mixed up.
There's Bluey with the tire. He was hiding in the cubby hole. Nobody thought to check, and that's a 5K there for the Junkrat, who comes out from the back of his devastation and continues to lay waste to the already shell-shocked team.
Yeah, let me go back on what I just said for a moment. Rockcraft swaps to Zarya because he sees the Junkrat grenades and he knows that is just black.
The play was just so big that it actually blew the observer out of the lobby, at least temporarily. Tragic, really, but it does happen sometimes. We'll hopefully get that feedback, and those gentlemen, I'm not sure if they'll take a pause or keep playing, but one or the other, we'll catch back up with them in a second. But indeed, the Junkrat paying dividends right there, as he so often does on that Kings Road defense. He's a real grinder on that particular map.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get into King's Row, you've got to get past the choke, past the gate, and then also past the statue. And just so many tight spaces for Junkrat to just lob in his grenades and get so much spam AoE damage. It's really, honestly, so good for...
Does very much look like they will have taken it. A high noon threatens there, but Rockcrafts saves the day with a well-placed grenade, and now the pressure will be on in the street phase. Try and clean up maybe some of these short spawns if they can. They'll push up to the edge of the bookstore, but that might be where the aggression ends for now.
Yeah, I think so. I think some great aggression finally coming out from Musclebound Gaming, but definitely on the back foot. Very good overall defense coming out from Hanzo behind as feed is frozen.
Well, it's just a series of colored bars on our screen right now, which is a little bit unfortunate, but we get a brief glimpse of Titanic on the high ground there as the window does come out. Kemi will back right up from that. He don't want no part of it. The charge in for the Doomfist. Titanic, though, punches the Reinhardt into a wall, and they won't get the kill. And waiting for him there is Blue Wind to clean him up with a bit of a flash and a fan. Now they throw out a grab of their own, and Kemi replaces the work of his missing DPS, and they will get 2 kills with the high noon and then just continue to clean up the streets. Rockcraft's pushing forward there, not giving him any room to touch for that recontest.
Yeah, the momentum so much has swung into Musclebound Gaming's favor, and you see it here. They're playing with so much more confidence now that they have a cart moving. And oh, the flank shatter from Minimax is massive.
Minimax does get a huge shatter right there, but was it enough? No, because Bluey 284 gets the tire in there, rolling over the backside of the team. The sound barrier there from Short Stack was absolutely crucial to keep him fighting at 2.62 meters with 45 seconds on the clock. They cannot get this through.
If I'm Minimax, I'm so sad. That flank shatter was great. It got like 4 or 5 members, and then you kill 2 after that, and then Junkrat just says, nope, I rip tire into your team, and that just undoes every little bit of work you did. However, Gag will have the beat to make you press in. Might be seeing a Titanic. No, never mind, we won't be seeing Titanic as Blue Wind takes them both down.
Blue Wind with the quick high noon there to clean up some kills. B-Mox and Bluey getting in on the action as well, and the point is swept clean. And that, I think, should end this campaign for the streets here. It would take an absolute miracle for them to make this one work, and there will be an attempted touch there from Gag, but he's taken out of the air, plucked from the sky, no touch. And Hanzo behind surges right back into this match with a dominant performance on King's Row.
Dominant indeed. Hanzo behind looked in control the whole time, mostly because of this guy right here, Bluey, on the Hanzo and on the Junkrat. Here's that sneaky rip tire that just completely blew out our observer's internet for like 30 seconds. It's actually a 5K. Like, I mean, that's just incredible. Incredible Junkrat play and Hanzo play coming out from that DPS player.
Indeed. Well, to quote Commissioner Gordon, you gotta clear your corners. They did not clear their corners right there. I mean, they were literally, I think, at one point in time, almost right on top of him. It was Kemi, was it? Who was like standing next to him. Didn't even realize the tire was there until it was already sailing, and by then it was obviously too little, too late. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The series tied up 1-1 right here, but don't go anywhere. More Musclebound Gaming here versus Hanzo behind at GitGud NA right after this break.
No sound from Corbeck.
Fighting, and that was because my microphone was turned off. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to GitGud NA Season 7. I don't want Dividing hearing what I say about him during the break, so I got muted. Anyway, you are watching Musclebound Gaming versus Hanzo behind here. I am Corbeck, joined by Dividing, and it's been a pretty interesting matchup so far, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly felt like a tale of 2 teams for both of these teams going on. Musclebound Gaming took Busan quite handily with superior team play and individual play on Busan. However, when they moved over to King's Row, it was Hanzo behind who were in complete control the entire time with their sort of slower variation of brawl comp with the Hanzo. Obviously knew how to play it very well. However, we're going into Gibraltar next, which means we're going to be seeing a whole different style of gameplay.
It is very true. I mean, it's a much more vertical map, right? This is one of the key aspects of Gibraltar. Interestingly enough, we've seen these 2 teams both engaged in a little bit of Winston tete-a-tete. At the end of the day, it was very much Musclebound Gaming who looked better in that matchup. We saw the double bubble that was attempted to come out there of Hanzo behind really struggle versus Musclebound running a more traditional sort of diva Winston dive. And I can't help but wonder if we're maybe going to see a bit of a repeat of that here, Dividing, considering the map and how much it does favor those kind of vertical mobility comps.
Yeah, I think this was a very strategic pick coming up from Musclebound Gaming, going off of what they saw on Busan downtown. We see them locking in that double bubble comp, with Spongy Cheese on the Tracer, Titanic on the Echo. This is very similar to what we saw on Busan. And honestly, the only thing that really kept Hanzo behind in that map of Busan was Bluey on the Widowmaker getting picks off on the high ground. Unfortunately, Bluey currently on the Genji, as I think Hanzo behind is looking to play a little more divey.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be what they're leaning here. Both of these teams obviously showing us that double bubble, though a more traditional double bubble support line, I would say, on the left-hand side there with Musclebound. But we'll see what these teams can make of this. One of them maybe makes a bit of a hash of it, but they'll get up there on the high ground. Beanmox tries to get a couple of shots in with the Tesla gun. Can't quite find someone waiting up there for him. A bit of a disappointment, and they'll continue to push the card around. And there is the initial engagement that Beanmox is looking for, and he'll take a healthy chunk of damage there before falling down back to the cart, and they're more than happy to just push this one through, Dividing.
Yeah, absolutely more than happy, as now it seems that Musclebound Gaming are not happy with that. They're going to drop down behind and try and aggress, but unfortunately, not the entire team is there, and Rockcrafts gets melted down by Hanzo behind. Dave trying to fend off this Winston, maybe take some lessons from Gangnam Jin, as we saw earlier today in Overwatch League. Does manage to get the Winston off of her. And with that, it seems like the advantage in this fight is more and more shifting towards Hanzo behind.
Beanmox continuing to fry away there at the front line, and there goes Minimax down, so one of the Winstons out of it. The support duo is still alive here in the background, though. Gag and Monarch just trying to survive, getting absolutely assaulted back here. Unfortunately, Monarch wasn't able to clear the jump, so poor Gag took the brunt of the enemy attack right there. Titanic diving in for a last-second touch, but ooh, a 5-minute time bank going into the second phase here.
Yeah, absolutely. Rockcraft's kind of getting bullied a little bit on this Zarya, and he knows that he's going to go ahead and swap to the D.Va, a bit more mobile. When you're playing against a sort of dive comp like this, it's super easy to get isolated as the Zarya. That is what happened in the last fight, and that's what eventually snowballed to this first point victory. So now we're going to commit to the dive, but Hanzo behind is going to commit to the Nano Blade. Gets the back line.
Gets two right there. He'll go ahead and go for the D.Va mech as well. He'll get that one out, and he'll hound Rockcrafts to the grave. And that effectively broke all control of the high ground and basically broke all control of second point. They'll walk this one in easy as you please, and it looks like they'll even get some kills on the back end there. Winston descends upon the fleeing Monarch, and Beanmox is more than happy to clean up these kills and get these massive staggers right here.
This card has not stopped moving. It's barely stopped moving at all since Hanzo Behind's attack has started, and this is just them really getting into their groove right now. They're playing, this is sort of a weird comp they're playing right now. It's not super divey, it's not super brawly, it's kind of a mix of both, but they're playing it to a T right now.
Titanic up over the top there, fires a couple of sticky grenades over towards the support line, but can't bring Dave down. Now the dive from Minimax going in with the nano boost, but Titanic dies to the high noon. In the midst of all of that, they will finally bring Blue Wind down, but then the angry Winston is put to sleep. He'll get back on the task of trying to cause some havoc here. Still wants Dave, but she's done a good job there of just kiting that one out. Good peel there as well from the team to keep their Ana alive, and now they'll re-aggress here on the back of what was a bit of a poor play there coming out from the side of Musclebound. The jump is in, the grab is out, that's Gag trapped in there, and there comes a Genji Nano Blade again trying to clean up a couple of kills. Bluey does manage to get two in the midst of all of that, but he's probably wanted a little bit more. Still hungry for some death here. He deflects the grab coming out of the glove of Zarya. Oh, he's filthy right there on that play. Bluey continues to apply the pressure to the spawn doors. There's desperation touches across the board, but it's just not enough. And with 4 minutes in the time bank, my lord.
Everything that Bluey has played so far, he has absolutely dominated on. Like, we've seen Bluey play like 5 different heroes so far this game, and every single time he has been the standout player of this Hanzo behind team, just able to take advantage of every single little bit of sightline that he gets. And like no disrespect to the rest of Hanzo behind too, because Hanzo behind does an incredible job of getting behind Bluey and enabling him. However, I mean, Bluey is playing such a good game so far, especially in these last two maps. Is a blazing fast time on Gibraltar.
Indeed, a blazing fast time, and that's the second kind of blazing fast time we've seen this Hanzo behind team put up. It does look like we maybe are having a little bit of error with the observing stream again. Hopefully we'll get that back in a second and we can see what these teams run. I mean, the gauntlet very much thrown down here for the attackers. It's going to be a big mountain for Musclebound to climb if they want to walk out of this map with the wind dividing. And already they're showing us some traces of kind of that same Winston attack. On the other side, though, a much more interesting tank composition being shown. Yangpa on the Sigma and BMOX there on a Hog.
Yeah, that's not something you see played on Gibraltar super often. This is very much, I think, they're using these tanks to try and get picks, especially with Dave going on to the Zenyatta. You want to get all that Sigma damage with amplified with the Discord Orb. And especially with Bluey on the Junkrat again, which proved to be so deadly on King's Row. There's going to be so much spam damage coming out. The hook from BMOX is massive, takes down Rockcrafts. Rockcraft's not having a very good map right now. He's not having a good day.
Not the best day he's ever had, I'm sure. Not the worst either, perhaps, but still not particularly great. And the hook was big, and Minimax, I think, could probably already tell that his life on Winston is going to be particularly difficult here. Spongy Cheese playing a dangerous game there, trying to bait out some hooks and play low. Bluey, though, just waiting for the opportunity, annihilates him, and now you see Minimax try and jump out, and he just can't make it. Monarch trades back a kill, but it's too little too late. Will force a regroup, and that's about all they can do in this situation. Then they are looking a little confused here at the moment.
Yeah, this is a very unorthodox sort of comp. You don't really see it too often. And when you look at this comp, you say, okay, there's a Zenyatta, there's a Junkrat, there's even like a Roadhog. There are potential dive targets here that you could isolate. However, when you jump in, as we just saw with Minimax, there's so much spam damage coming out. The McCree flashbang right clicks, the Junkrat grenades, the Sigma, the Zenyatta. Everything is just geared toward putting out as much damage as possible, and no one on Musclebound Gaming can exist within 5 feet of them for more than 3 seconds.
Well, like a school of fish that has a shark swim into the middle of it, the coordination here is kind of broken down for Musclebound. You see them kind of just feeding in those kills one by one, which is not ideal. Spongy Cheese there got picked off kind of in the mid-game. Poor Minimax, he can't even get up on the top deck without getting rocked and hooked and who knows what else. And this pick comp is paying off dividends here, dividing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see wholesale changes starting to come out from Musclebound Gaming. They're going with a more traditional brawl comp. They're going to try and maybe contest the points a little bit as feed goes black again. And it's coming back maybe. But yeah, these brawl comps, I think, yeah, the play here is definitely to bring the cart under car wash and try and force Hanzo behind to come to you.
Unfortunately, Monarch will die early. The amplification matrix out there as well. The remaining support Gag trying to make some sort of strange hero play, but it will not manifest, and they will back right up there. For the moment, just hiding underneath, kind of waiting for Monarch to get back to a reasonable position. Then going to try and escort him forward with Gag's speed boost. Again, this is not ideal. They'll clear Bluey out there, at least chase him off. The rest of the team does have to come back here to get any hope of getting Monarch underneath, and they'll leave one hanging. He will survive, and Bluey, well, he's got a tire, and he's waiting to use it, and it will be undoubtedly brutal. Oh, 2 kills filtering in quickly. The tire being thrown in as well for extra measure, and the attackers devastated on the cart.
This sort of spam damage comp has just been working so well for Hanzo behind. Ever since we started seeing it on King's Row, Musclebound Gaming is just having trouble finding a comp that can live long enough to get anything done.
Yeah, does seem to be the big test right now. They'll push up underneath again. Monarch now having swapped off the Ana over to the Baptiste. They're split there at a crucial time. They'll have to regroup as quickly as they can and get on the high ground completely uncontested. So they'll have their work cut out for them right here. They do have the touch, but in comes the Flux. Titanic, though, manages to make a play out of it. Bluey is down. Spongy Cheese gets one as well. The DPS coming up big here in the last seconds from Musclebound. Minimax will die, but it's enough to get them through and on to the second stage. But 2 minutes, 33 seconds to go through one of the hardest points to take in all of Overwatch right here.
Yeah, you lift up the McCree, and then he starts glowing, and it was at that moment that Yangpa knew he messed up. The opening pick comes out thanks to the elevated McCree, and luckily with that and the superior cart presence, Musclebound Gaming managed to take the point. But I think even if they have a perfect rest of their attack, they will have a lower time bank than Hanzo behind it, and by a significant margin. But oh my god, that was
what a monster!
Titanic.
Yeah, he dives into the back line like some sort of angry dolphin with a gun, gets a pick. Unfortunately, the peel was there, but they might have actually broken the back of these defense with that play. And neither of these teams doing a very good job of defending this second stage, because they punched their ticket quite fast right there, dividing with one kind of crazy McCree play.
Yeah, absolutely. The Musclebound seems to be a very momentum-based team as we see the staggered picks continue to come through. They were stuck for so long, but now that they've gotten a pick and gotten the cart moving, they are able to sort of use that momentum to keep moving forward and keep Hanzo behind on the back foot. However, both DPS ultimates will be coming online for Hanzo behind, and Bluey's going to be using the early Riptire. Do they see it coming? No!
They do not. Big 3K there for the tire. It's a scene we've seen time and time again, repeated once more here on stage 3 of Gibraltar. They just can't avoid those tires dividing no matter how much they absolutely want to.
It is so difficult to try and to get that, especially when Bluey is using those high ground sightlines that he's using. It's so difficult to shoot that out of the air. Now we see some changes though. Bluey's gonna swap over onto the Hanzo. Seems like they're gonna try and take advantage of some more Hanzo Dragon grab comps, and as well as just taking advantage of the high ground. As you can see, both Bluey and Blue Wind are just on the high ground raining down shots, and Musclebound Gaming don't have a response. They're just going back to spawn.
It will back up here. Blue Wind maybe wants his high noon back, because it will unfortunately lose Minimax in the midst of all of that. You see a flurry of storm arrows being thrown down the gut there by Bluey. He was looking for something, but he didn't really find it. The recontest will be quick, though. They're not going to waste a ton of time here, and Bluey has ensconced himself on the high ground so they can maybe drop into the back line and get a cheeky pick. That's exactly what he's going to try and do. Now out comes the Amplification Matrix, the high noon combo into it. Titanic actually steps up through. Well played there indeed. VMOX does go down, and now they'll push forward. Short Stack is out of it as well. I think an attempt maybe to grab right there. No, Yangpa will hold on to it. The sound barrier is thrown in here, just generally helping to keep the team alive. And on the high ground, Bluey is challenged and annihilated by Spongy Cheese. Minimax will go down. They'll throw the dragons in. Another great play by Spongy Cheese. And then just to help him along, being a good sport there, Yangpa grabs him to the cart and they'll walk it right in.
I think that was a boop from Gag to force BMOX into the line of sight of I think it was Titanic's high noon. And getting rid of that Reinhardt so early is absolutely massive, and it eventually allows Spongy Cheese to start popping off on the Hanzo without that shield in the way. And then Musclebound Gaming, they managed to push the cart all the way through. Unfortunately, though, it is 1 minute to 4 minutes and 18 seconds, so we're going to need to see another really good attack coming out from Musclebound Gaming if they want the slightest chance of taking this map, and that means they're going to need a better response to the spam comp that, once again, Hanzo behind is bringing out.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was actually a really well done attack there, kind of coming out after the initial hurdle on the first point where they couldn't really decide what they wanted to do. It looked pretty good from Musclebound. It's a shame though that their defense was not up to scratch there as well, because 4 minutes and 18 seconds versus 1 minute is not a time bank that I think anyone would really choose if they had the choice of the matter. And Bluey, he's already firing the spam here, and that's unfortunate.
It's a little
I hate when an
unfortunate.
antenna gets in the way of my concussion mine. I hate that. That's the worst thing.
Very sturdy antenna, I gotta say.
Yeah,
those guys at Gibraltar, they build them well.
Yeah, they know what they're doing over there on the big rock right there. Spongy Cheese getting bumped up into the air, flies around in space for a second, and then manages to fall back down. But they got to escort the rest of the team underneath here to the cloying embrace, the protective, comforting embrace of the tunnel, at least momentarily. And the spam is waiting for them on the other side. You simply can't escape it. Bluey wants himself a kill. Beatbox there showing an aggressive hook, falls back. The team actually rushes forward to try and cut him off. And okay, defenders, somebody's got to rotate back and touch this card. Dave is down.
Oh, no.
And they don't even touch. They just give it up. Oh, a huge miscommunication there from the defenders to give that one away for free, Dividing. How can you do that?
I mean, I have to say, the entire attack last time, Musclebound Gaming couldn't do what they just did without losing 1, 2, even 3 players. This time they did a beautiful job of not just sticking onto the cart, but also playing around their tank's shields to make sure that the spam damage didn't get any picks. And because of that, there were no openings that were created by that spam damage, and they were just able to keep pushing the cart until they eventually forced Hanzo behind to respond, and now they're continuing to just keep pushing. The cart hasn't stopped, and picks continue coming through for Musclebound.
The dreaded tire coming out there only takes out the immortality field. It will not be effective this time, but neither will Titanic's High Noon. Neither of the DPS ults really finding much value here from Musclebound, but they don't even need it. Hello, look how behind you there, Short Stack, and they'll actually let that Lucio live. He'll back right out, and they will complete the second point, and this is going from dreams to nightmares very, very quickly for these defenders.
What an incredible adjustment coming out from Musclebound Gaming. This is a completely different playstyle than what we saw in the first 3 minutes on their first attack, and it's worked out so well. In just one round, they were able to diagnose the problem with their approach and get a solution instantly, and that's the mark of a really good team. However, Blue Wind wants to put an end to that real quick.
Gag is taken out right there. An unfortunate loss indeed. The grab follow-up, though, could be big. Minimax tries to go for something, and he doesn't get it. The stun is right there, and the unfortunate main tank just gets melted out of existence faster than a crayon in a microwave. And now the pressure is back on the front line there. They have managed to clear the cart, and that will be the end of what was a very impressive run in overtime.
Overwatch is a game about being able to adjust and counter your opponents. The mark of a great team is a team that is able to say, okay, we're losing to this comp. This is why, and this is what we should do to fix it. And then being able to pull it off. And that's what we saw just now from Musclebound Gaming. The comp that was just their absolute Achilles heel just about 10-15 minutes ago, they figured it out. They were able to figure out a way to beat it, and they did it actually surprisingly quickly and were able to ride that momentum through a very, very good overtime push. All of a sudden, what was looking like a certain victory for Hanzo behind is looking a little less certain.
It does look a little less certain, but I'd still, if I was a gambling man, which I'm not since the last trip to Vegas. No, I'll give my odds here probably to this 4 minute 18 second time back. That is pretty hefty on Gibraltar, and I don't know if the adaptation of play here is good enough to allow them to push it through, but I will point out here, Dividing, they are on the side of Hanzo behind, falling back on this double bubble, and I genuinely just don't know how good that's going to look. We've seen it look great once and bad the other time, so a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, Musclebound Gaming trying to take a little bit of a play out of Hanzo behind's book, going with a sort of stationary spam comp themselves with the Hanzo and the McCree. It's a little bit different because they're able to use the Gags and Free Boost with the Lucio to reposition themselves faster, which they're going to use right now to aggress.
An airport assault dropping in from the high ground on top of the cart. Shades of paratroopers right there, and it's more than enough to scare the attackers away, at least momentarily. They're trying to close down on a target, though, and they can't quite find one to really confirm, and they'll go back here, underground, into the tunnel where they seem to be at their most comfortable, do Musclebound, but unfortunately not very comfortable for Gag, because he does run into a face full of electricity. Titanic getting taken out there as well. They've got him backed in a corner, and now it becomes an academic matter of just punishing them for their positioning, and it does look like it's exactly what they'll be able to do.
Nice anti-nade there from Dave, getting Gag, and then the rest of the team able to finish them off. I feel like I do have to mention Dave. We haven't talked about her very much, but she has been doing a very, very good job on this Ana. Her bio-nades have more often than not been very big. Oh, wow, look at this. Last second recontest coming out from Musclebound Gaming, but looks like it's just gonna be more fed ult charge as, yeah, Minimax goes down, and now this is looking scary for Musclebound as we're gonna have 6 ultimates for Hanzo behind.
Louis absolutely loves that ult charge being fed to him, like a chubby kid at an all-you-can-eat buffet. And they'll take out the split spawns there as well, so more than happy to do that as they go ahead and just secure the top deck for now.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be tough now. I mean, for what it's worth, neither team has actually used any ultimates so far, I think. So both teams have all 6 ultimates coming up soon, which means this next fight could be very flashy, and I think whoever wins this ult fest is going to win the match.
The pyrotechnics on display here, at least initially. Soundbarrier coming out. Look at all those ultimates on the side of Hanzo behind him. Bluey making a hash of the enemy team. Gets in there with the blade and starts swinging, and you'll see B-Mox in on the action as well. Minimax will fall, and it does look like we'll manage to clear this second stage, and they'll still have plenty of ults in the bank to continue this push.
Yeah, both teams actually did a very good job of not blowing everything at once, knowing that no matter what, no matter who wins, there was still game to play afterwards. So 4 ultimates now for Musclebound Gaming to play with, 3 ultimates for Hanzo behind to play with, and I think that was the Zarya bubble blocking Minimax's shadow. Great stuff from Yangpa.
Louis does go down though at the beginning of the engagement, so the Genji taken out of the equation. Still 3 ults to use here. Bluewin's got 1, B-Mox has another, Yangpa has 1 too. The Dragons come sailing onto the left side of the map, and they don't quite find anyone with that. Minimax here at the doors waiting to push in, and I love this healer positioning from Monarch here. Backed up right about as far as he can be, but out comes the Graviton Surge. The Immortality Field goes in. The window comes out. They're trying to pump deals through it. He's just keeping his team up. The High Noon, though, is more than enough from Blue Wind, and he'll cut down 2, and they'll continue to follow this up. Blue Wind with 3. Should have broken this defense wide open, and I don't know if they're going to recon touch here at all, dividing. That is a very short distance to cover.
I was really impressed. Monarch's Ant Matrix and Immortality Field was almost enough, but now the ultimates are starting to come out from Hanzo behind. Bluey is just trying to pick off any stragglers. Minimax not long for this world. Gag is going to use the Desperation Beat, but that extra health is going to be ripped through by the superior numbers of Hanzo behind. Now it's the Wrecking Ball's turn, but Rockcraft goes down as well. And as overtime does get procced, a very good effort, I think, from Musclebound Gaming, but it's going to be Hanzo behind going to match point.
It is indeed Hanzo behind, forcing it onto that match point, though at one point in time they did look a little bit like they were on the back foot, but that's all right. Blue Wind here with the big play of the game, and it was well deserved as well. The 3K at the most critical time right there to wrap this up. Yeah. Beautiful shot there at the end to finish off Minimax as well, and just enabling the rest of the team to kind of surge up to that corner and push that card through.
Absolutely. Hanzo behind came out on top because they had very, very good overall team organization. Like we saw on King's Row, they understood their win conditions. They were enabling their DPS, enabling their tanks. I think both Short Stack and Dave are doing a very good job in enabling the rest of their team. to get value. However, I have to keep going back, even though they lost to Musclebound being able to adjust and pull off an incredible 1 minute push against a comp that they looked absolutely stumped on just a couple minutes ago. Uh, Even though they ended up losing, they really gave themselves a fighting chance with that. We saw them able to push the clock down to overtime on the subsequent defense. So I got to give shouts out to Musclebound right there because, like I've mentioned, I think that is the mark of a really good team.
Yeah, it was a very good adaptation from them. And unfortunately, I think if we'd seen it maybe a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit more on their defense, we probably would be looking at a scoreline that kind of featured the opposite way, right? I mean, it was telling that we went into that 4 minute time press, and there was still a pretty good chance that Musclebound on that, right? All things considered. But it looks like we'll be going on to Hanamura next for this potential match point here for Hanzo behind. They have chosen Hanzo's home turf to make their statement right there. And I can't really blame them for that one. It's a map that probably plays to some of their strong suits, especially this desire to play spam compositions that they've shown us on these last two maps.
I mean, you gotta love the spam compositions on Hanamura,
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, you gotta
you
love it if
have
you're
to love
playing
them.
it. Well,
Not if
you
you're playing
gotta
against
play
it,
it.
then you gotta hate them.
You've gotta play it. Let's just say
Yeah.
that. Hanamura definitely lends itself very well due to its sort of tight chokes. To those spam comps, there's a lot of tight corridors to play in. That's why we see a lot of teams actually playing Symmetra into these kinds of into Hanamura, because then they can bypass those chokes, which are it's just so difficult a lot of the times for teams to break through. Spam comps seem to be the name of the game for both Musclebound and Hanzo behind, and because of that, I think no matter who won Watch Point Gibraltar, it would be very likely that we'd see Hanamura here.
Yeah, anything to give Bluey the opportunity to continue to play a Junkrat as his opponents filter into confined spaces. As long as he's got a
He
hole
likes
to
the
hide in where
Junkrat.
he can throw the tire, I think he's going to be more than happy with just about any map. But it will be Hanamura that they choose to come down with, and it does look like we're taking just a second here for the teams to get ready before we hop back in. But I'll be interested to see here dividing whether or not Hanzo behind can just bury this, or whether Musclebound is going to kind of reach deep inside themselves and pull up that kind of team that was able to adapt and that team that was able to overcome. And they have to be frustrated coming off of the loss there, but they also maybe could take a little bit of heart from it. It was not as much of a stomp as it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, it was in the end, it actually ended up being a very, very close map. And I think a lot of that came from Musclebound's ability to adjust. Unfortunately, they did not adjust in time for Hanzo behind to get a 4 minute time bank on Gibraltar in the first place. So Musclebound needs to be trying to adjust a little bit faster, try their best to take a look at what Hanzo behind is running, because as we've seen, you can pretty much expect to see anything from this team. They have the mechanical skill to pull it off and the organization to play around whatever they want to play. So at the moment, I'd say just because of the score itself, the overall needle is pointing a little bit towards Hanzo behind. However, if Musclebound can get a little bit quicker, just a little bit, it's not much, with their adjustments, they've shown that they can stand up to this team. Also, I'm just going to throw it out there, especially on point A. Pharah is somewhat viable, so we might be seeing the Titanic Pharah, and I've been wanting to see that all day.
Yeah, it would be good to see the Titanic Pharaoh. We've seen the Titanic Echo a couple of times, and that has been pretty effective in its opportunities. Though there was that amazing deflect of the clone grab on the Zarya right there on the last point defense of Gibraltar, which was something to see. And it looks like they are currently playing on Hanamura, and our stream is not there to watch, which is a little unfortunate. Oh no, never mind. Our producers are
I
changing the
think,
mind. Yeah, I was very
yeah,
confused there for a
there's a
second.
delay between what, so the
I was
delay,
like,
instead of being
they
from us
are?
to the stream, is from our
Yeah,
observer to our producer. So we're coming to you in real time based on what we're seeing, but
we're right there with
there's
you.
some delay from the observer, so that's why I got a little confused by what the
I
mod was
was
saying.
We were like looking. I was like, "Oh my god, we are? Are we in the future? Are we in the past?" It's been a lot of time travel references today, which is not usually the case. But that's fine. I'm good. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. But it will be interesting to see how this Hanamura plays out. Now, we were talking about those spam compositions and how effective they've been, but I do think that the addition of an aerial character might really open it up. At the very least, right? The addition of a Pharah, the addition of Echo, even more so a Pharmacy or an Echo with a Mercy as well, does put a lot of pressure on your hit scan player and makes it a little bit harder for Bluey to thrive on those projectile heroes that he seems to prefer.
Yeah, I think if Titanic or someone else can really take away Bluey's attention from the tanks, from the rest of the team, to try and deal with the looming threat that is a Pharah or an Echo Mercy, or even another sort of long-range hit scan player that he has to deal with, if anyone can just kind of, they don't even necessarily have to win the 1v1. They can just kind of distract him and make sure that they have his attention for as long as possible. And then as soon as and then once you can do that, you can kind of deal with the 5v5 and trust that the rest of your team that is very talented can win that. So Bluey seems to be the main challenge that Musclebound Gaming, I think, has to get over, because I mean the rest of the team does such a good job of dealing with it. And look at this, the Titanic Pharah, we're seeing it.
We are seeing the Titanic Pharah on the defense, which is a perfectly viable pick on Hanamura. Maybe not as in vogue as it used to be, but still very effective if played well. And certainly Titanic is a player that can play this well, so we'll see what they can make of this. And certainly, like I said, the pressure now being applied directly to Blue Wind's forehead for him to be able to shut that Pharah down. Bluey can maybe contribute a little bit, but of the two Blues, it'll be Blue Wind who will be looking at the most, I think.
Yeah, Minimax going for an early. Yeah, that's a pretty aggressive fire strike. Unfortunately, let go of it, I think, a little too early, so no ult charge there. But yeah, as we were mentioning, Titanic trying to get some rockets in there, and I think for some portions, at least some portions of this map, Titanic's going to be fighting sort of a 2v1 between him and Blue Wind and Bluey shooting at him, so he's got to play pretty safe, even though he's got pretty much Gag attached up to hip.
Well, up here in the
nice boop.
All kind of tricked up. It was a great boop and a great finish there as well from Titanic. This is what we're talking about. The hard counter there, down and out, but Rockcrafts is taking a hefty amount of damage here, has to fall back behind the bell and get some healing, though they, again, have managed to separate off one of the DPS here, at least temporarily, and Titanic is more than happy to fire rockets in through the door, just waiting for a good opportunity to really pour the damage in and continuing to build up this ult at a frightening pace. They've got to force a rotation here. They were waiting for that D.Va mech to go down, but Titanic very much still alive, very much playing from the sky, does have the barrage, and they'll let it go! That's two there for Titanic. The Blue Wind counter was there, but Kemi managing to strike back, and he'll get brought down, and I think they've staved off the worst of that attack. I say that, though.
Wait, Gag? Oh!
Gag! The Mercy finishes the job, but now they desperately need the team to get back, and the Mercy's going to be in a lot of trouble, already getting chased by Short Stack on that Lucio, and they might get a recontest here.
Yeah, luckily because of that, Gag being able to win the 1v1 against Bluey, this allows enough time for a recontest to come through, but Titanic caught out by the fire strike from BMox. We'll get the res, but with Minimax also going down to BMox, it's looking like Musclebound Gaming's probably going to have to concede point A here. The great Mercy play from Gag.
It was. You love to see that every once in a while. The Mercy wins the 1v1, but just a series of unfortunate events right there. Titanic eating the fire strike. That immortality field that was meant for point, it bounced off the wall. I think even at the end we saw Titanic get stuck on a roof. So it's all a bit of a tragedy right there, but they'll try and make a quick attack out of this. Yangpa just leading in the charge right there with BMox. They've got ult to play with. Yangpa's in behind the line, trying to get a kill, but it's Short Stack who will die first. The immortality field has to be invested, so an attack that looked beautiful is turning into a bit of a scary one indeed. The bomb coming up over the top will not keep Kemi alive. Yangpa manages to get that kill, but they will hold on there, dividing, though they did have to invest some ults.
Okay. Titanic's okay. I saw him frozen up sort of in the stairway and thought he was like, oh, Rockcraft with a nice little 3K there. Not bad, not bad.
It was kind of at the tail end, so we didn't get to hype it up, but well done nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, taking out short stack at the beginning there is huge because that means there's no beat, there's no speed boost to continue aggressing on the Minimax, who was so close to going down, by the way. And without that, it allows Musclebound to really take control of that fight that was so close to going the way of Hanzo behind. The other side of it, though, is that because they lost someone so early, Hanzo behind decided not to use any ultimates in this fight, and that's smart, as we're getting 6 now.
Bringing up my thumb, something ultimates this way comes, and Minimax, the first victim. There come the dragon surging through that grab as well as Gag does go down. Kemi tries to even the odds with a high move of his own from the high ground, but he will not find anything with it. Rockcraft's managing to trade a kill back over, but loses the mech, and it's all red bodies on the point. Great shatter from Minimax. Can he follow it up and get some kill? Yes! Gag and him do get kills, but they do not yet really manage to save the point. You'll see the attempted touch coming out from Kemi, but he's forced to translocate back, or not translocate, teleport back to the point. Oh, unfortunate right there.
Yeah, great stuff from Minimax. What we saw right there is the power that a team has when all 6 of their members press Q at the same time. That's pretty much how I would say that fight went. They ran onto the point, they all pressed Q, and they won. So that's it. That's how you win Overwatch, guys. Take it from me.
You build up 6 ults and then everybody just presses Q.
You'll lose 3 fights. You'll lose 3 fights before you do it, but you know what? Then you'll do it, and sometimes you'll still lose. You know, 60% of the time, it works all the time.
It's the log war of attrition theory right there. Sometimes you got to take your losses before you get your sweeping potential victory to be set up right there. But oh, I see a familiar sight. Bluey here on the Junkrat. Shouldn't be surprised by that at all.
Not at all. Yangpa also on the Sigma, I want to point out. An interesting little swap, and I think very much favors towards this spam comp. Sigma Concorda, I think he's kind of looking to get onto this little high ground up here. Use his shield to help protect the rest of the team while spamming in those hyper spheres. So much spam damage. And again, that's what we've been saying about this Hanzo behind team the whole time. Look at this! Bluey, oh my goodness!
God, by the sainted bones of Jeff Kaplan, Bluey opens up with a 3K with the surprise ambush from the high ground. That is just filthy.
What? I mean, he has 75% to his Riptire. No one else on the field has more than 25. What did I just see?
Get this man a shower. He needs to be cleaned off after that. That was so dirty. Oh my
He's using the
Lord.
Riptire.
There comes the tire. He's got them all locked in a small room. Oh, it'll take down Minimax just to spite him. Takes the main tank out and traps the rest of the team there in the staircase. That's about the worst thing that could have happened. Bluey jumps up to the high ground and tries to go for another one. His eyes as big as his stomach at the moment, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to turn anything out of it. But still, he's already made his mark bigly here. And Minimax is going to have his work absolutely cut out for him if he's managed to get back through this gate. Can his team turn this around? A great body block there on the accretion. And they will try and turn this around. B-Box gets brought down by Gag, so main tank for main tank right there. And now the pressure coming forward up to the high ground, just trying to drive them off. Blue Wind will die, but this amplification matrix combined with this May wall is just creating the perfect shooting gallery here for the members of Musclebound. And despite that ignominious start, they have managed to drive themselves forward to the point, and they will take it with time to spare.
Hanzo behind really thought that they had the rest of Musclebound Gaming sort of bottled up on that high ground with DPS flanking from either side, and really went in to try and send Minimax, who was separated from the rest of his team, back to spawn. Unfortunately, committed a little bit too much to doing so, and because of that, Musclebound Gaming broke free, and I gotta say, some great peel for the main tank there. Here comes another
tire from Bluey 284. It's hunting for a victim just hiding below ground level. It pops out like Jaws. And that'll be Kemi and Minimax who die to it. Steel Bodies here on point, fighting this one out. They're not going to give it up. Titanic there with the freeze and the finish. You hate to see it if you're not a May player. Bluey now under a lot of pressure here, but Monarch going down, and then Rockcrafts loses the mech. And that should signal the end of the attack. The Junkrat, the unstoppable defender.
I think that was a 6K from Bluey. Overall in that fight, I think he killed all 6. That's crazy. He used the Shatter. He used the Riptire. He's halfway to another one, and it's crazy because the rest of the team hasn't even really needed to use anything so far. Bluey has been carrying this defense more than he has for the rest of this game, and because of that, I mean, the rest of the team has been free to just charge up their ults with no care in the world.
Really quite true indeed. They'll throw out the Amplification Matrix out, but the Gravitic Flux comes in here. They will get 1 kill at the start. Kemi does go down. Monarch trying to get back as fast as possible. Short stack taken out, but another tire from Bluey. 2 more dead. Gag and Monarch are down. The fight is still going. Minimax sends B-Mox into a wall. The freeze again there on the Sigma, but once more Bluey gets himself into the action. Oh my lord, he's your Archimon, your Hellscream, whatever you have. He's your raid boss for today.
Oh my goodness, he has, not only does Bluey have a Riptire every single fight, but he's always able to get picks with it. He's just doing such a good job. I mean, Monarch got a pick with the Amplification Matrix, and it was looking good, and then the Riptire came and just got rid of everything.
They're at it again. The sound barrier coming in. The freeze invested here as well. That'll be the unfortunate B-Box there, caught out and killed. Now Kemi trying to answer back with a little bit of DPS play of his own, and he does manage to get 3 in the midst of all this. Minimax takes a significant amount of damage, but they do turn it. 2 minutes on one side, 2 minutes and 1 second.
Wow.
On the other dividing.
And I mean, it is looking like Hanzo behind with all these flashy fight wins. It seems like they're in total control, but actually what I saw there was Musclebound Gaming sort of going back to what worked for them on Gibraltar. The most consistent way they've been able to deal with these spam comps is by just rushing to the objective, placing a foot there, and trying to keep the other team off of it as long as possible. This spam comp from Hanzo behind really relies on Musclebound Gaming sort of staying around in one place and stalling, sticking together, allowing Bluey to really spam in the AoE Junkrat grenades, which, of course, as we've seen, charges up the Riptire insanely fast. However, if Musclebound Gaming doesn't give them a chance to do so, then Bluey's effectiveness is very stinted. Oh my gosh, is Bluey gonna go for the aggressive thing again? Or is he gonna do it again? I don't think he's going as aggressive. He's taking
a slightly different position, but he's trying the same trick. Look at him. He's waiting. He fired too early. Oh no, he's giving away the trick. But will he retreat? He's kind of staying around there. He's hungry. Hungry boy, but his thighs are bigger than his stomach that time at least. A little high off his own supply, and he's punished for it, and they'll punish the whole team as well. The Bluey is down, and the gates are open. The Immortality field coming out there from Monarch, not really lasting very long. They do manage to get a res here. B-Mox back in the fight, but Titanic is just walled off the point. It's all 3 ticks at that point in time. Titanic playing up close. What a freeze there on the B-Mox. They'll take him down. Blue Wind is out as well, and the Musclebound team will just flex on this first point.
And again, here is the adaptability from Musclebound. Bluey got the incredible spawn play that first time and thought, I'll just try something similar. It'll work again. But Musclebound Gaming, they were expecting the aggressive Junkrat push, and oh my goodness, what a fast aggress here from Musclebound Gaming.
They don't spare the last either. They're right in. What a shatter, though, from B-Mox to make the ults that were invested essentially useless. And that's just the upper deck of death right there for the attackers, and their lightning fast place is clipped.
Yeah, Musclebound Gaming, I think, was trying to just keep up the pressure, keep up the tempo, try and make sure that Hanzo behind didn't have a chance to make a plan. Unfortunately, though, BMOX knocked them all flat on their backs with a shatter. So that's going to be that. But now, looks like they're going to do what's been working best for them so far, which is just get on the point.
The Dragons comes through in a very, very scared Titanic there in the ice block, but it's not enough to save the rest of the team. There's only room in the block for one, and they'll clean up again there, so the second point remains inviolate.
Yeah, the poke damage just so good coming out of Hanzo behind, especially with Dave's Imp Matrix. Sigma was just sitting up there, throwing down the hyperspheres, double damage. It was just so good from them. However, Hanzo behind, Musclebound Gaming forced out every single ultimate from Hanzo behind. As long as Minimax can block BMOX's shatter, and he does for the most part, Gag's stunned up, but will barely survive thanks to the immortality field. There's a chance here.
Bluey is down. Titanic and Gag both claiming kills as well. Out comes the Diva Bomb there. That annihilates the shield. Great counter charge there from BMOX to stay alive long enough for that immortality field to get into the equation. And it'll actually cost Minimax his life. Go down. Titanic still fighting this one out. Health pool dwindling there, though, and the Hanzo will not survive. Still, a tick on the board dividing, and all things considered, not a bad performance from a team that is playing for their lives right here.
Absolutely not bad at all. Getting that first tick onto second point is huge. Not only because we will not be seeing any Dranamura in this match, but because this second point, it's so easy on Hanamura to just stagger on and keep the fight going before even a tick is given across to the defending team. 2CP, as they say, just some classic 2CP action. Because they were able to get a pick, barely, but they were able to get it, Musclebound Gaming have put themselves in a pretty decent position as long as they just get, 1 second better on this defense.
Now, time to find out what difference a second can make right here. That's gonna be the big question. That's the only difference between these two teams. It is my match point here right now for Hanzo behind, and they've done a pretty good job so far, though I will say maybe a lot of their credit, not to take away from the rest of the team, but a lot of their credit could be attributed to the Bluey factor, if we may call it that.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bluey factor has been massive. And the team, we've been singing Bluey's praises over and over and over again. I've got to give props to the rest of of Hanzo behind, because they do such a good job of enabling Bluey. He wouldn't be able to get away with what he gets away with if he doesn't have the Mercy with him, he doesn't have the tanks ready to peel for him if necessary. They know their win condition is getting Bluey to pop off, and they're able to consistently put him in positions to do so. As now we're looking at potentially a Symmetra strat coming out from Bluey.
Love the idea of them just coming into the locker room and all that's on the whiteboard is just get Bluey kills. Anyway, out comes the teleportation, but the main wall there, well done, but it didn't last for long enough. They dropped it too early. They didn't fully split the team. That being said, Blue Wind pushed onto the point and was kind of left there because the teleporter didn't live much longer than that. Now the main wall coming up on the front gate there separates the attackers once again. They try and follow it up with the kills, but Youngpa manages to get out with their life. A dangerous situation indeed. Minimax throws the shatter. He might want that one back. He bottled it a little bit, but he doesn't even need to worry about it too much. He's tucked up in this corner. Another wall going out, and that's once more the Zarya trap, but can they make kills happen? No, they cannot. It's Monarch who dies on the other side. The Baptiste being down here means a significant source of healing is off the board for these initial brawls. A good wall indeed. Again, but they cannot follow up. Minimax goes down. Titanic quick to follow their teammate into the grave, and that's pretty much everyone there. Second point here, collapsing.
Yeah, Titanic's Mei walls, I'm always so impressed when I watch him play Mei, because they're always so on point, and he manages to just completely dissipate the first attack from Hanzo behind. Bluey coming up pretty far, but yeah, no, he's not gonna try and go for some weird solo play. Monarch goes up a little bit too far though, trying to maybe put an aggressive amplification matrix down, and because of that, gets picked off, unfortunately. And now we see both Shatter and Grab available for Hanzo behind to potentially break into the second point.
Well, they'll try and hold them at that front entrance there. Don't even want to take the fight on the staircase. That forces a rotate out to main. Dropping in from behind on the high ground, though, are the members of Musclebound.
Oh, what a blizzard.
Huge blizzard there on the deck. Will completely split the attackers, but the grab quickly followed up. It's not over yet. BMOX is down, but Minimax is in a bit of danger there. The beat being invested, and Kemi goes hunting into the corner for his opposite number. The two of them engaging in a quick duel here. It's Kemi who falls victim to Bluey, who will then immediately pop the high noon, but it feels like too little too late. All he gets out of it is the Diva Mech. 11 seconds left on the clock. The tac visor coming out there from Blue Wind. Not enough to stop the inevitable, and it looks like we are going to a map 5 between these two teams.
Wow.
I don't know that it could have ended any other way.
You know, I mentioned this at the beginning of the fight. If you are Bluey's opposite number, you just have to take up his attention for as long as you can. You don't have to win the 1v1, you just have to make sure that the other team can play a 5v5 without having to worry about that deadly DPS player on Hanzo behind. That's exactly what Kemi did at the end there. He confronted Bluey on the high ground there, died for it, but still managed to keep the rest of his team on the point without having to worry about that damage. And because of that, they were able to win the 5v5, even though Bluey might have won that 1v1. In the end, I think that, along with the early Blizzard doing wonders from Titanic, is what allowed them to hold on to that point B push.
The blizzard was huge. I don't think we can overstate that enough, right? And anything you can do, especially in those final seconds of gameplay, to split a team apart, especially on a site like Hanamura Second Point, right, where you have the trench, and if you can put anyone, except for maybe a Lucio or anybody who has the ability to really play great verticality, but if you can put people down in the trench, you effectively take them out of the fight, right, for at least a few seconds, if not more, as they have to work their way back up there. So the blizzard cannot be overstated. And you're right, even though Bluey won that 1v1 on the outside edge, the high noon was not enough to turn around the fight. The bodies just weren't there on the point. And it was a situation in which, one DPS alone was just not enough to change the course of the outcome.
And I'm hoping that if they're muscle-bound, they're starting to understand this as well, is that as long as they can take Bluey sort of out of the equation for a little bit, they tend to win the fights more often than not.
Yeah.
As long as you're putting Bluey in a position where he doesn't have free reign over the rest of your team, you can't fault them too much for falling that spawn Junkrat trap that he pulled. I can't imagine any team would have been expecting that. But as long as, for the most part, you're keeping Bluey sort of entertained in his own corner and not around the rest of the team, sort of just chain him off, Musclebound tends to come out on top.
Yeah, but it's a dangerous game to play. Nobody puts Bluey in a corner. He doesn't like to be there, right? We saw that illustrated right there at the end. He did get put in the corner, but it was only very brief. That he battled his way back out like an angry rat, which was pretty impressive to say the least. It's unfortunate for him that he wasn't able to turn it around. But our last map here will be Lijiang Tower, which, if I remember correctly from looking at these team cards earlier, is actually the favorite Koth map in the pool for both of these teams. So it's a map that they are both very comfortable with, a map that they both like, and a map presumably that they have practiced enough where they have a pretty good idea of what they want to do here.
Yeah, and I think that Lijiang Tower, the sub-maps here have maps that I think favor both of these teams. You've got Control Center, which favors a lot to the sort of brawl comps. I think Hanzo behind will likely find a lot of success here, considering how well those sort of brawl Spanish comps worked out for them at Kings Row. Then you've got Gardens, where Titanic can sort of come out with Pharah, and potentially Musclebound can come out on top there with the comps that they like to play and sort of fit their heroes a little bit more. And then you've got Night Market, in which both strategies are very much viable. And I'm thinking whoever, just based on my what I've seen so far, I think whichever team wins Night Market will likely be the team that wins this map, this series. And And let's not sugarcoat what's on the line here. These are the last two remaining undefeated teams in the rookie division of GGNA. They are fighting for leaderboard supremacy right now. After this map, there will be only one undefeated team remaining, and they will be the ones to beat.
Very true, and it genuinely looks like either of them could take it right now, right? We've seen Hanzo behind kind of surge forward, some huge plays, but we've also seen Musclebound do the exact same thing, and neither of them has remained kind of on the bottom for very long as these things go. What I will be interested to see is something that you touched on there, is how Titanic approaches this map, right? Because you mentioned the Pharah, a very strong pick on Lijiang Tower, always has been. Echo, too, another character that we've seen Titanic play a little bit, also very strong on this map, and both of them very viable here. We'll see if he chooses to come out on that, or if they stick purely with that brawl that they have also favored. And that being said, we are going to night market first by the looks of it. Here's the dividing, so we get to put your prognostication abilities to the work here. If the team who wins this wins it all, we will almost certainly see.
Yeah, hopefully I have not just been made to look like an idiot in front of everyone, but, you know, that's what I think. That's what I think. And you know what, you can go ahead and lol in the chat if it ends up being wrong, okay? But both teams coming out of this with, it seems like both teams will probably be doing the strategy where they send teleport into the point, into the windows, which I think is one of the coolest sights in all of Overwatch. Just seeing those teleports show up on the point windows and both teams spawn in at the same time. Both teams kind of going a little bit different, though, to try and deal the spam damage to get the upper hand, with Rockcrafts on the Sigma and Bluey on the Junkrat.
Well, straight on, the teleporter's already coming out here. They'll drop right in together into the pit, into the blood pit, as it were. The two teams clashing there. Monarch's Immortality Field already taken down. The wall coming out there from Titanic. Titanic will be the one who dies first. Minimax quickly in danger there as well. Very low with very little shield, and he will get sectioned off and killed. And it does look like the initial clash here will be going in favor of Hanzo behind.
Yeah, Hanzo behind come out on top. They got to their sim teleport just a teeny bit too early, and that split second made all the difference because it allowed Hanzo behind to take the sort of position that they wanted to on the point. They were able to take the space, and because of that, Bluey and Blue Wind had so much room to work with. Bluey, we shouldn't even be surprised at this point, has the rip tire.
He's in a corner with the tire. Everybody look out. The whole server needs to be careful. Let's see how this one works. There it is, point blank range. Out it comes. Oh, he detonates it prematurely. It's okay. A lot of Junkrats have that problem, and they'll keep fighting here. Monarch throwing out the heals there as Minimax gets two big picks to start this off. The barrier coming out from the Symmetra. Oh, no. That'll lead to Minimax dying, but the point being secured. His sacrifice was not in vain, Dividing.
I think they weren't expecting the For Mercy swap to come out. Hanzo behind wasn't expecting that. You look at Blue Wind was on to Symmetra. When you look at what their comp has right now, they really had nothing to deal with the Pharah until Blue Wind swapped over to the McCree. So I think a really good adjustment coming out from Musclebound to try and counter this comp. And now we see the ult economy sort of shift towards their favor a little bit. Titanic can just stay up here with no care in the world.
Unfortunately, Monarch died very early on. Dave will throw out her amplification matrix right there and get some healing forward, and that is keeping the team sustained through any poke that Titanic can do, and his wings will be clipped right there, and the point will flip back in favor. Oh no, not the stagger.
Oh, gag, yep. And there he goes. Yeah, I mean,
for that 1v1 last map right there.
Because Gag is trying to stick with Titanic, it's up to Monarch to heal up Kemi and the tanks. It is all on Monarch. So when he goes down to an amplified fire strike from BMOX, I mean, the fight's already over. There's nothing to keep the tanks alive. And without that, the entire comp crumbles.
Well, the Flex goes up. The bodies come down, but the sound barrier cancels out the worst of that. Kemi trying to go for a high noon. Oh, he finds Dave from way downtown. Beautiful shot there coming in. And then Titanic unleashes a storm of justice from the sky and cleans up the 5K. And yeah, get your spray, get your tactical crouches. You deserve all of them right there.
Oh, man. First of all, what a great high noon from Kemi to start. Great reaction time, getting that back piece in that one moment where she was visible. And then Titanic gets in behind that sneaky Pharah, manages to get behind, and I mean, beautiful stuff.
Out comes the grab, the eat being thrown out immediately there by Rockcrafts, and unfortunately, BMox will just swing into it. Doesn't really matter how you try and block it. Bluey gets one with the tire. Minimax does get two. Titanic still alive, still rumbling here, trying to turn this out. Oh, he thought about the boot there for a second, but he couldn't quite make it stick. He's just contesting as best he can. I don't know that he's going to be able to get back in through one of the windows to keep it going any longer. Still, they are over that 85% marker.
Yeah, there was a lot that was actually committed from Musclebound to try and hold on to that, and unfortunately now all they'll have is the Amp Matrix. Meanwhile, they'll be playing into the Shatter from BMox, who has been on fire this map, I must say, and as well as the Amp Matrix and the High Noon that's coming through the Amp Matrix. Rockcraft is in trouble, but just barely managed to get the shield out in time.
Blue Wind nearly died right there. Ducked back into the shield cover at just the right time, and unfortunately Titanic took a little bit too long to get this ult off, and his team has died in the meantime. And even though he took out Blue Wind, it is far too little on the back end of all of that, and the sound barrier thrown in. Victory right there is point one goes to Hanzo behind.
Hanzo behind, I think. That was a very, very back and forth map, I want to say. Great plays coming out all around, the culmination of this battle of the undefeateds. I'm loving the gameplay coming out from everybody here. However, it was, in fact, Hanzo behind who were finally able to stop the cycle of the point trading hands over and over again. Due to, I think, a great shatter coming out from BMox, which was set up first by Graf from Yangpa, I think. We've been putting a lot of respect on the DPS's names, but I think the tanks from Hanzo behind are absolutely pulling their weight here.
Yeah, you're right there. They've definitely stepped up into their own, and BMox, like you've been saying, has just been a beast here on this map. But two different playstyles coming into conflict here. A dive on one side and a brawl on the other. And usually, this goes in favor of the brawl, but usually is not applying to all circumstances, and we'll see what it goes for here. BMox gets a hefty chunk of damage dealt there, but still manages to get onto the point. Now it's just a straight-up fight on the front line with Minimax, who drops perilously low right here. Short Stack doing their level best to keep everyone healed up, and the Brawl falling dangerously low on health. Dave does go down, but he'll get res back in, and a good bit of protection there as well. And it does look like, at least initially, the point here falling in favor of Hanzo behind.
That was a bit of a gamble, I think, coming out from Hanzo behind. Short Stack coming out on the Mercy instead of the Lucio. Other than that, it's a pretty standard Brawl spam comp that we've been seeing, but there was no speed boost to try and aggress onto the point. Luckily, Musclebound Gaming kind of opted on also a long-range Poke comp without much point presence, so they were still able to get to the point first, Hanzo behind was. And because of that, and that superior point presence, they were able to endure the sort of poke coming out from Titanic and eventually take the point.
High Noon coming out here from Blue Wind, looking for a kill. Can't seem to find one, but that's okay. No, he got Titanic there, so he does get one, and that's a good pick to get. Takes the far out of the equation. That's not going to slow down this attack very much. They'll take a brief pause here, dividing and reset, but they could go again pretty much at any time. Never mind, they're getting chased back.
Yeah, I think that Blue Wind was booped somehow during that High Noon. I'm not fully sure. Oh, wow, look at this with Titanic.
Oh, Titanic drops in. He gets stunned out of it. He does manage to get Bluey there, but Blue Wind, the other Blue, more than happy to pick up after the loss of the other Shade, and they will continue to go here. The res comes in, and Bluey is brought right back into the equation, and this is not looking good for the folks from Musclebound.
Absolutely not. Titanic trying to put the team on his back right there with that was a slick little move with self-concussive blast, but unfortunately Hanzo behind was more than ready for it, and oh no, wholesale swaps coming out. There's going to be no ultimates here coming out from Hanzo behind in what is about to be the last fight.
Blue win there, was trying to get a pick off, couldn't find it, didn't need to. The push coming in from White now across that tenuous stretch of bridge, and there are bodies waiting to greet them. VMOX here does have the Shatter. He will play a little bit of mind games with Minimax, but it's the grab that comes out first. The Shatter can follow it up, and there it goes! Unleashing hell on the front line. The kill feed lights up red, and that is all over for Musclebound. It is Hanzo behind who walk away with the win and remain the only undefeated team down here in the rookies.
Yeah, and 100% deserved. I think we've sung Boolie's praises a lot this match, but this map, it was all BMOX, the Chad Reinhardt coming out. Yeah, I don't think he missed a single shatter this map. Absolutely beautiful play coming out from Hanzo behind there. I had a great time watching that game. That was a ton of fun. And I think Musclebound, if you're Musclebound, you shouldn't be too upset because you played these guys really close and you're not too far off from being able to beat them.
Very true, taking it straight to the razor's edge there, but in the end, it is Hanzo behind who emerges with the victory over Musclebound, 3-2. However, there is more Overwatch action here coming up from GitGud. Don't go anywhere. Right after the break, we're going to be bringing you the Advanced Division. It'll be SH Bonkers versus Help Desk Hogan here on ELO Hell.